the Brexit process is concluded and perhaps the UK has left the EU. I don't know what they're going to do, but whatever you do is okay with me. That's your decision. Whatever you're going to do is okay with us. Just make sure we can trade together. That's all that matters. The United States looks forward to finalizing a great bilateral trade agreement with the United Kingdom. This is an incredible opportunity for our two countries, and we will seize it fully. We support the decision of the British people to realize full self-government, and we will see how that goes. Very complicated negotiation and not an easy negotiation, that's for sure.
That was the president earlier today reaffirming the United States' commitment to a strong trade relationship with post-Brexit England. Joining us now with reaction, he is the Brexit leader, Nigel Farage. How are you, my friend? Good to see you.
Very well. Good to see you here.
Why didn't you come to the protest with me?
Because I'm hated even more than Donald Trump. And in fact, I went into a building in Westminster earlier, and they found I was there. They gathered outside.
The protesters?
Oh, yeah. I had to be got out the fire exit out the back. But look, I've got you a souvenir.
Oh, you did?
No, I do.
You came bearing
there
gifts.
we are. I think it's very important that we have that. No to torture.
Wait, could you sign it for me?
Absolutely.
There you go.
Because you've got to remember that Trump is guilty for climate change, torture.
Well, that's what there's
virtually nothing in the world.
By the way, you know, 14 states have record low unemployments for Hispanic Americans, African Americans, women in the workplace. Oh, and we have more jobs available in America than we have people that take them that are on unemployment.
But there's no rationale to this. Do you know, every one of those people out there are the same people that go on the anti-Brexit marches. You know, it's just the same crowd.
So what the president in the Sun obviously took Theresa May to task.
Yeah.
I told her how to do it. She didn't do it right. She didn't.
Truth of it is, Trump believes in Brexit. The whole administration believes in Brexit. Why? Because they believe in nation states. Why? Because they understand that the European Union is the epicenter of the globalist project. That's what Hillary was for. That's what Donald was against. That's what the election was about.
Yeah. And you won by a big margin here.
We did win by a big margin, but what we've got now, a couple of years on, is an establishment fighting back very hard, a very weak prime minister who doesn't really believe in what she's doing.
She says the right thing and never does it.
No, she says the right thing and does the opposite. It's quite extraordinary.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think they wind her up at the back in the morning, you know, and she
oh, ouch.
She robotically says we're taking back control of our laws, borders and money, and it sounds great. And then you see what she does and it's different. But I also think this. From the early days of the administration, I remember talking to people around the president, and they were saying to me how excited they were about a free trade deal with the UK. Why? Because it showed the world.
It's in jeopardy.
Showed the world that America's not protectionist, but it wants fair trade.
Free and fair trade.
Absolutely. We promised to America that we'd facilitate that once Brexit had happened, but the agreement May made last week makes that virtually impossible.
The Prime Minister seems to be hanging by a thread from my observation. Okay.
Yes.
Boris Johnson, big speech coming up on Monday. Does he have a chance? Because he wasn't pro-Trump that I remember.
Oh, look, the idea that they're good friends is nonsense. You know, I mean, Boris...
I love your honesty.
Come on. I mean, you know, Boris didn't even want Trump to come to London. But hey, times change, and there are certain politicians who can be a little bit malleable with these things.
A little bit?
Just the way it is. Why
don't you run for Prime Minister?
Well, truth is, Boris did join the Brexit party. He may have came late, but he did, and he was important. If we had Boris as leader, we'd be in a far better place than we are with Theresa May. Middle England is in uproar.
Do you support him?
Well,
Why not you? Because you are the Brexit leader.
Yeah, well, I kind of step back a bit from frontline politics in Britain, but if they drop the ball, and if the Conservative Party cannot sort this out, I'll be back. And next time, no more Mr. Nice Guy.
Okay, I'll take that as a yes. Okay. The last question. Listen, we love our friends in Great Britain. We are tied forever. I only have about 25 seconds.
Yeah.
We pay 70+ cents of every dollar for NATO. Why won't Germany step up, and why are they making Russia rich again with energy?
The whole thing's a joke, and underlying it is a desire to build a European army. A European army will undermine NATO, and I hope Trump, if they don't pay up within the next 6-9 months, starts to withdraw troops and says, hey, we're serious about this.
Yeah. Nigel, good to see you again.
Pleasure.
Great to be. I actually had some time here, but I was hanging out with the protesters.
It's a great city.
Oh, thank you for my gift. When we come back from London, more Hannity and a programming note.
With us now. Welcome back to the program. Now, you say Mr. Trump is creating a new world order. What is it other than America first?
America first, but not alone. He laid that out in Davos very clearly earlier in the year, and that's what all countries should do. All countries should put the interests of their own people first, but want to cooperate and trade with other people. It's exactly what he wants to do.
Well, except that he's not showing much cooperation when it comes to trade, or when it comes to NATO, or when it comes to Mrs. May. That's not a new world order.
I don't
That's
know. He's managed to get
sowing chaos everywhere he goes.
Well, he's managed to get the German car manufacturers to suggest on the back of what he's been saying that maybe tariffs should be abolished completely on cars across the Atlantic. So, actually, direction of travel on that is interesting. On NATO, well, I mean, come on, for goodness sake. 29 members of the club, only a handful paying their way. I think what he said on that is absolutely right.
Just, can you tell me, on this extraordinary NATO press conference that he gave this morning, could you tell me one thing he said that was factually accurate?
Well, you must always take Donald Trump seriously, but not always literally. And that's the way he does things. He does shoot from the hip, but his instincts are strong, and his direction of travel is generally right.
So when he said that America paid for 90% of NATO, that's not true, obviously. He said that he'd got this brand new deal of billions more from the other NATO members. That's not true. All they did was reinforce the deal that they made in 2014. On every fundamental thing he told us,
He was a bit soft.
True.
He was a bit soft, I agree with you. He could have been harder this morning, because it looks like...
Soft or hard? What he told us was untrue.
Well, what is true...
There is no more money than what was agreed in Wales 4 years ago.
What is true is that Germany is paying 1.2% of their GDP towards NATO, and they expect full American protection, and that can't continue. And how disappointing that Theresa May, who had the opportunity yesterday to be the broker, the bridge, if you like, between America and the rest of Europe, didn't take the opportunity.
Is there a new world order being created, or is it just America first?
Well, I think some people at first thought that Donald Trump was an aberration. I now think one has to take very seriously the possibility of 2 terms. So first of all, that's another 6 years of this. And 8 years altogether of a particular United States policy is something that we really do need to factor in. It is a world order, although I don't yet know what it is, because he is using tariffs aggressively. He is trying to make some sort of deal, goodness knows what it is, with North Korea. He does want to make some sort of deal, goodness knows what it is, with Putin.
Who he meets in Helsinki, I think it's Monday.
And he's showing an extraordinary amount of hostility to the concept of the European Union. And whereas, on the whole, diplomacy is about people going to other countries and being insincere in order to not discomfort their hosts, this is not his approach at all. He's come here and spoken from the hip and, blown Theresa May's proposal for Brexit out of the water. So quite a lot of that is new, and quite a lot of that has to do with the world.
Have you been winding him up on Brexit?
We've had the odd chat about it. And it's not just him, by the way.
No.
You speak to Wilbur Ross or John Bolton or any of those senior figures.
I was going to say, you've also been winding up Team Trump, haven't you?
Well, I like to have a chat with them.
Your hand was all over that article in tomorrow's Sun.
Oh, I think on balance they're probably more Eurosceptic than I am, Andrew. I mean, they see the European Union as the embodiment of globalism. They believe in nation states running themselves, cooperating with each other, and so do I.
So, how do you handle a US president who has his Brexit policy determined by Nigel Farage and a British government has to deal with them? How do you do that?
I know. Well, you've got to see past the kind of belligerence and the ignorance. I mean, Nigel is actually charming compared to Trump. He's not got an ounce of charm in him. But you have to respect the office that he holds. And I think all of these protests this week are going to add grist to his mill. His whole raison d'etre is, look, I'm America first, and look what I put up with. I have to put up with this because I put America first. But he's not a deal maker, is he? He's a deal breaker. He should take some lessons from that guy from Ethiopia. He's not reached a deal. He's broken a lot of deals so far. He hasn't brokered one.
So he is rude to Chancellor Merkel, one of America's most important.
Well, it's about time somebody was, I'd have thought.
And
you've been doing it for years.
How well he is going to get on with President Putin. Has he ever met a strong man he doesn't like?
Well, of course, strong people will always have a certain attraction to other strong people, but...
Even authoritarian,
he
undemocratic strong men.
He certainly is getting on well with the new Italian government. That's a very interesting development, and I think we all need to think about that. This isn't just Brexit and Trump. Italy shows you there is a trend. The whole game is changing.
But except the new Italian Prime Minister came out today and said, we didn't agree to pay any more for NATO at all. We don't know what he's talking about. How is that getting on?
Well, they may have to watch themselves in the future, is all I can say. I mean, you know, Obama made all these veiled threats and never acted upon it. I was slightly surprised by the end of that NATO summit that Trump wasn't a bit stronger. He's sort of kind of claiming a victory where perhaps one wasn't there. But listen, the NATO issue will come back again. And of course, this is all against the backdrop of a European Union that wants to create its own army, with Mr. Juncker encouraging people just to pay 1% of their GDP. So this one will run and run. What he's done tonight, Andrew, I think is very significant. I mean, there they all were, the cabinet, at Blenheim Palace, having a grand dinner. And as the coffee and petit fours are being served, somebody would have whispered in Mrs. May's ear, we've got a bit of trouble with the Murdoch press in the morning.
Nigel Farage has got to. That's what they're saying on this. The difficulty I find in this is as someone who kind of analyses and follows policy. I'm not sure there is any policy in this. It's all transactional. Everything Mr. Trump sees is a transaction. There's not a new policy framework being created here. There's not a new world order, as Nigel says. It's, all right, I'm going to get a better deal on NATO out of you. I'm going to get a better deal on trade out of you. There's no overarching theme to this. I'm just going to get better. That's it.
Well, America First continues to be the theme. But, I mean, in the case of what he said on Brexit, of course, you know, America First would dictate that he would do a deal with the United Kingdom, a bilateral trade deal. And what he's saying, I think with a fair amount of sadness, is that the proposals that were cleared by the Cabinet on Friday are going to make that impossible. I mean, that is a very strong statement.
It is, but hold on.
Yeah.
When President Obama said that we'd go to the back of the queue, you were outraged. How dare an American president interfere in our... You don't... This time you're not outraged. You're helping them interfere.
Obama set the precedent. American leaders into it.
Right.
Well, I tell you what it does do. It's going to make Tory backbenchers think very hard over the weekend, and there's going to be a couple of big votes coming up in Parliament next week. And I think what Trump is saying actually is chiming with the way Middle England are feeling this week. I've never known, you know, small C conservative rural types be as angry with the Conservative government as they are. And I would just suggest that maybe people listen to what Trump has said today, particularly Tory backbenchers, many of whom will lose their jobs if they carry on with that checkers accord.
The letters page of the Telegraph has smouldered all week.
It has.
And then the Daily Mail caught up in the same theme today by doing 2 pages. Yeah. You probably wrote half of them as well while you were writing his article in The Sun with both hands. Where do we go with this? Because it is perfectly possible